Well, good morning, Lighthouse Vineyard. It's good to be with you. Yeah, maybe a couple comments then on what you just heard. I think the strategy in having me come in the entire month of April is so that you guys would be like, oh, when is Clint coming back? Please, dear God, make them cut their sabbatical short. You know, and he's made mention of me being a hockey player before. Don't do too much with that. You know, after one of the games up on Notre Dame ice, I was checking out my Fitbit. It said I had taken no steps at all in the game, and I'm complaining in the locker room. And one of my colleagues is like, "Butcher, have you ever watched yourself skate?" It's like, okay, fair enough. And then on that note, I probably should not say this because I'm going to lose perhaps some of you, but the United States gold medal hockey team is up 1-0 over Canada right now. Okay, you guys are watching it back there. You are watching a hockey game during church. Keep me posted. All right. Hey, well, this morning we're continuing in your message series, Strengthen. And today's message is Strengthen Through Rest. And here's a simple truth that we all know from observation, that the importance of rest has actually been built into the fabric of creation. Do you know that? We know that from farmland, for instance. It's just well established that resting the soil, either by fallowing a field or crop rotation, it's just a critical practice for sustainable agricultural production. Rest strengthens. We know that from agriculture. We also know that rest strengthens in exercise. It's critical to exercise. When we exercise hard, it actually creates tears in your muscle in a bad way. And rest then is essential for those muscles to be rebuilt, for the body to have time to repair, with the result then that you can push harder next time with increased strength and increased power, better coordination, control, and improved stamina. All that happens when we rest. Rest strengthens. And by the way, you can trust that I actually know a lot about this, because I hope it's obvious that I spend a lot of time in the library reading books about exercise, right? I don't even do that, actually. So creation itself testifies to the importance of rest. Strength does not come from constant pushing. It requires rest as well. This is not only true of farmland and our physical bodies, but it's true for the whole of our being. God designed you such that in order to strengthen in every way, you must rest. And rest is so crucial for us that God made it one of his original Big Ten commandments, right? Exodus 28, we read the number 4. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Now, a little audience participation here. Now, for how many of you grew up in homes where keeping the Sabbath holy meant going to church on Sunday morning, probably Sunday night, minding your P's and Q's, and heaven forbid that you should do anything fun? Anybody grew up in homes like that? Yeah, that was kind of the home I grew up in. Okay, how many of you grew up in homes where keeping the Sabbath meant sleeping in on Sundays, not going to church, and maybe playing some golf or watching football and drinking beer all afternoon? Okay. I don't know what the rest of you did on Sabbath day. It's just like, all right. So those I think are common perceptions and practices of Sabbath. But what does the Bible actually mean by Sabbath? And so I want to unpack 4 qualities of biblical Sabbath. And if you're following along on your notes, they're not there. Sorry. I totally changed this message last night. And everything that I sent your tech team, I did differently. So don't give them dirty looks if it doesn't. It's like, get on the right screen. It's like, it's him. It was me. All right, so here's the first visual definition of what the word Sabbath means. Sabbath simply means hit the pause button. Sabbath means stop doing something. That's our simple first point. And then secondly, what is it that we're supposed to stop doing? Well, verse 9 tells us we stop doing 6 days of labor. What is in view here is our occupations. Stop, your 6 days of occupation and all your work implies all the other stuff that we have to do. Not just our occupations, but all the other stuff that we have to do. And then verse 10 goes on to broaden the scope of Sabbath. Don't do any work. Say any work. All right, so it means stop, pause the whole of all your labors. And so Sabbath isn't just talking about our Monday through Friday 9 to 5 jobs. It encompasses all of the have-tos of life. All of the have-tos of life. Careers plus paying bills and mowing the lawn and shoveling snow and vacuuming and raking leaves, fixer-upper projects, etc., right? This unending list of all the things that have to be done. It all gets paused on pause day. It all gets paused on pause day. And so the meaning is simple and it's very strong. Sabbath means a complete pause from all your labors. A complete pause from all of your labors. You drop the entire bundle of tasks that drains you of your working energy. All right, a Sabbath day, a pause day is not, listen to me, the pretense of pause, right? It's not trying to catch up a little bit on stuff I need to get done on my day off. It's a genuine and comprehensive stop everything. Sabbath means a complete pause from all your labors. That's our second point. Thirdly, Sabbath means pause 1 day in 7. Picking up verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God, and in it you shall not do any work. So work 6 days, pause 1 day. Work 6 days, pause 1. A simple point, and again, a simple application. Set aside 24 hours, every 7 days to completely pause from all the stuff you have to do. Now, we know from the New Testament, it doesn't necessarily have to be Sunday. Sunday does not have to be your pause day. And so you just have to figure out a 24-hour period in your weekly rhythm where you can stop completely. Make sense? 1 day in 7. And so here's some practical application then, as opposed to everything else I've been saying, which is completely impractical. This is practical. So don't rest on your pause day by doing more of what drains you in your labors. All right? And so if you sit on a computer all week, don't pause on your computer. Put it on a shelf and go throw a frisbee. All right? If you spend your work week on loud, noisy machines, go for a walk in the woods. Go fishing. Do something quiet. If you sit all week in a cubicle, at a desk under fluorescent lights, go outside and reintroduce yourself to this thing called sunshine. All right? Do something different than your ordinary labors. Sabbath is not inactivity. It's intentional cessation from the occupational and life obligations that demand and drain your personal resources. And replacing it with something that refills your tanks, your heart, your body, your mind, and your spirit. And so here's a question to think about, something to work out. Moms, when is your pause day? Have no idea. A man's work is sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Husbands, listen to this. When is your wife's, the mother of your small children's, when is your wife getting her pause day? Yeah, that's something to think about. And no, it's actually something to do something about. So, all right, anybody want to throw an elbow to the person next to you right now? It's okay. Just do it in love. Anybody just get elbowed? No, I won't make you say that. So quality 3, pause 1 day in 7. And a fourth quality of Sabbath is defined in the phrase, keep it holy. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And interestingly, if you don't know me, I'm a bit of a word nerd. The phrase keep it holy translates only one word in the original Hebrew. And it's a verb form of the word holy. It's a verb form of the word holy. And so a painfully literal translation would sound something like this. Remember the Sabbath day to holify it. Holify the Sabbath day. Sacredify the Sabbath day. Set it apart. And so in other words, set aside a Sabbath pause day and don't mess with it. It's holy. Holify it. And don't let anyone, yourself included, defile your sacredified pause day by getting their grubby little paws all over it. All right? That can be hard to do, right? We get that telephone call on our pause day, and the voice on the other side says, hey, I know it's your day off, but I could really use some help. Right? A legitimate need, a legitimate request. What do? Most of us say, I'll be there. Right? But in the Scripture, God gives us permission to guard as sacred a day where we have to rest. Because if we keep pushing, it tears us apart. We know it from our muscles. You keep pushing, it tears them down. You keep pushing your body, you keep pushing your heart, you keep pushing your mind, it tears you down. Your Father said it. You must rest. And so on that rest day, holify it. Set it apart as sacred. All right, so set pause day apart and don't mess with it. All right, number 5. Lastly, there's an important implication, and that's not lastly for the whole sermon. That's just lastly for the first set of points. We have a bunch more to get through. We're shoehorning a lot of material into one message. So lastly, there's an important implication for us in the Father's view of Sabbath. And listen to this carefully. From the Father's perspective, the normative life is a life of work. 6 days you shall labor, but on the 7th hit the pause button. And verse 11 picks up on it. For in 6 days the Lord worked. He made the heavens and the earth, but on the 7th day he rested. And so listen to this. God created us to, like him, exert ourselves 6/7 of our time and rest 1/7. Are you hearing that? All right. I'm not making a case for a 6-day work week, but it's about rhythm. The Father ordained a rhythm of a well-lived life, and that rhythm is work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, pause. Work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, pause. That, says the Father, is the good life. That is a life well lived. And that's important. Listen to this. It's important because we can't have a good biblical theology of rest if we don't have a good biblical theology of work. But let's be honest. We have, in our American mentality, this tendency to think of the good life as the life of R&R, right? The good life is the life of R&R, and we believe that work is probably an evil that resulted from the fall of the human race from God's original plan, right? Work didn't show up till Genesis chapter 3, and so as a result of the fall, we have a broken world that's full of sin and pain and sickness and death and work. and zucchini. I had to get that in there. But Scripture shows us that the very first man worked in the perfect garden before the fall, Genesis 1 and 2. Work isn't a consequence. Work isn't a punishment. It's part of God's, the Father's perfect original design for our lives. And if you're not convinced of this, the Bible also gives us glimpses of the fact that there will be work in heaven. I'm sorry if that's bad news, all right? Work cannot be a necessary evil. It's a gift from the Father, and it's good. The Creator created us in His image with the capacity to create, to work, to labor, to build good things with our hands and with our minds, to cultivate His garden so that good things grow. That's good. That's the good life. And this biblical perspective of work as an eternal Father-designed good challenges our belief that the good life is a life of R&R. All right? Not so, says the Father. The good life, the normative life, is a life lived in the rhythm of work hard. Work hard, right? Six times, work hard, pause. Does that make sense? Right? And the rhythm makes sense. No, never mind. I'm going to cut that point. Right? The point makes sense, right? Work hard. We can't, you can't exercise a theology of rest if you're not exercising a theology of work. Yeah, that's all I want to say. All right, and then to further strengthen in this case that work is a God-ordained good, it's worth noting that the word labor in verse 9 means not only just to work, to serve, but it even means to worship. You can make a strong biblical case that the Father views our hard work as worship. We view work as secular. The Father views our work as sacred. And so when we, in expression of His divine fingerprint on our lives, when we labor, when we work, when we create, when we build, when we cultivate good in the Father's garden, we're actually worshiping Him. We're actually worshiping Him. So work is not only the good life in the Father's book, work is good worship. Work is good worship. And so, to understand rightly the Sabbath pause day as the Father defines it, we must see it as an intermission, a pause from the Father-ordained rhythm of a normative life of hard work. Okay? All right, I'm going to move on. Just kind of pulling this all together. So a holy Sabbath, as the Bible defines it for us, it's not about stiffly tiptoeing through Sundays trying not to break some rules. All right? It's just simply about this. Set aside 24 hours every 7 days to completely pause. All right? And guard your pause day as sacred and untouchable. Don't let anyone or anything mess with it, yourself included. Clear enough? Ready to move on? Okay. So our simple take-home then, just for us, simple practical application behind the Father's command to Sabbath is simply this. It should be on the screen. I grow stronger when I pause completely. I grow stronger when I pause completely. I told you, I changed it's probably not on the screen, so anyway. So I grow stronger. Say that. I grow stronger when I pause completely, weekly. All right. And listen to this. This is a little field trip or something. In Deuteronomy 12:28, the Father says this about His commands, about His commandments. Be careful to obey all my commands, like number 4, Sabbath. Be careful to obey them. And why? Because I'm going to give you the beat down if you don't? No, He says, so that all will go well with you you and your children, because when you do life the way I'm telling you to do, you will be doing what is good and pleasing. You see that? The point is, if the Father says take a pause day, it's good. It's good. It makes life go well. Life goes well when I take a complete pause day every week. All right, so now what I want to do is go into the next section, which I do think is in your notes. Why pause completely? Why, from these verses, what reasons are we given to pause completely? Well, verse 11 first gives us a first reason why. I'm going to pick up at the end of verse 10. In it, right, in the pause day, you shall not do any work for or because, here's the reason, you shall not do any work because in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. All right, we simply rest because the Father rested. We simply rest because the Father rested. We observe a rhythm of work hard, then complete pause, in imitation of the Father's example of work hard, followed by complete pause. Right? We imitate the Father. Well, how does that help us? Well, this speaks directly to those of us who stress out when we pause. Those of us who fall victim to the illusion, it's all riding on my shoulders, and if I don't work 24/7, it's all going to fall apart. Anybody know that one? Right? So here's a news flash. It's not all on your shoulders. All right? It's not. The whole universe is, in fact, on the Father's shoulders. 24/7, not yours, not mine, it's his. And yet, he rested on the seventh day. He literally carries the whole universe on his shoulders, and he rested on the seventh day. You know, not because he was tired. God didn't need a break. He wasn't worn out. The Father simply hit the pause button to set an example for us. Hey, hit the pause button. If God Almighty can take a pause, you can too, right? We can too. All right, so that's reason number one. We take a complete pause day in imitation of the Father's example. Reason number two, we pause completely as an expression of trust. Pause day is a day to remember it's not riding on my shoulders, it's on the Father's. And so we pause in acknowledgement that our provision comes not merely from our labor, that I'm the one making this happen, but ultimately it's from the Father's hand. And pausing exercises our faith in the Father's faithfulness. Yes? You know, in the ancient Near East agrarian world where this command was first given, that trust was palpable. What? If I don't farm, I might not eat, and if I don't eat, I die. Right? That's right. Pausing was a real exercise of dependence, a weekly act of worship that said, Father, I'm trusting you. Right? In our modern world, I think it's easy for us to lose sight of the Father's providential hand behind our daily sustenance. It's easy to lose sight of the Father's hand behind our sustenance. I think we unconsciously attribute provision in our lives to modern science and technology and industry and commerce and supply chain, right? Rather than God's providential faithfulness, right? I have water to drink because of Elkhart City Water and modern plumbing. Thank you, Elkhart City Water. I don't know who does water here. Somebody like that, yeah. I have food to eat because of Kroger, all right? And we forget that our utter dependence on the Father's providential hand. He could shut that hand this moment and we'd all be in trouble. We'd all be in trouble. You know, supply chain, we'd all be in trouble. You, me, Kroger, right? We'd all be in trouble. So a true pause day restores the awareness that it's God's hand behind it all. And it reorientates our hearts towards worshipful gratitude. A prayer that's lived out in action that says, I am doing nothing today as a declaration of trust, that it's not on my shoulders. My life is provisioned and sustained by you. Make sense? It's an act of trust. And then lastly, verse 11 gives us one final reason for Sabbath. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Right? The Father blesses our every seventh day complete pause. So we rest weekly, not only in imitation, not only in trust, but we rest weekly to enjoy his pleasure. I don't think that hit you. We rest weekly to enjoy his pleasure. We pause completely to experience the Father's smile. He blesses our Sabbath pause. All right, now listen, these words were written to free those of us who feel guilty when we pause. For those of us who, whenever we pause, if we ever do, hear a voice in the back of our heads that says something like, "Get up, you worthless sluggard. Do something productive with your day." All right? Anybody else know that one? Okay, 2 of us, so it's 3 of us, 4 of us. All right, so this is just for the 4 of us. The rest of you can watch the hockey game. All right, for those of us who feel guilty, Sabbath answers the voice of guilt. And whenever that accusatory voice tries to smear its grubby little guilt all over your sacred pause day, you just simply say back, I'm sorry, guilt. I'm not being lazy. I'm actually imitating the Father today by doing nothing. I'm actually worshiping the Father by doing absolutely nothing all day. In fact, I am about to worship the Father by taking a nap, a really long, worshipful nap. And by the way, guilt, when God sees me doing nothing, he's not disappointed. He's pleased. He says, "That is so good. Look at Butcher. He's doing nothing," right? I am so proud of him. He works hard all week, and then he trusts me enough to stop. That is so good. That makes me happy. So back off guilt. Don't mess with Butcher's pause day. It's holy ground to me. It makes me happy. See, listen, the Father doesn't frown when we rest in him. He smiles. He smiles. All right, so lastly then, and I do mean lastly now, I want to talk about this notion of sabbatical. I think you have on your screen a modern definition of sabbatical. In our modern usage, it just describes a prolonged leave of absence from usually a professional occupation. It's often undertaken to achieve specific professional objectives, like you're doing some research, you're writing a book, or you're continuing in your education. And this was something interesting as I researched it. The practice of sabbatical is actually on the increase. It's gaining momentum worldwide. More and more people in the corporate world, in the secular world, are practicing sabbatical, and that's a good thing. But it's interesting because the tradition of sabbatical actually finds its origins in the Bible. The Father thought of this, not, Amazon or whoever. Yeah, Amazon probably doesn't do sabbatical. They overwork. All right, so Leviticus 25, 1 through 7 is where we get the biblical idea of sabbatical. So while Moses was on Mount Sinai, so this goes back a couple years, the Lord said to him, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you've entered the land I'm giving you, the land itself must observe a Sabbath rest before the Lord every 7th year." A Sabbath, a rest, a pause every 7th year. And so in addition to a weekly pause, the Father also commands a rhythm of extended pause, extended rest every seventh year. And this command is the origin of what we call today's sabbatical, a rhythm of extended rest every seventh year. And then verses 3 and 4 go on to echo then a familiar expectation that the Father puts on Sabbath rest. For 6 years you may plant your fields and prune your vineyards and harvest your crops, but during the seventh year the land must have a Sabbath year of, what are the words? Complete rest. Complete rest every seventh year. It's the Lord's Sabbath year. Don't plant your fields or prune your vineyards during that year. And so sabbatical means complete rest, biblically. Complete rest, an extended full stop from our ordinary labors. And so in the ancient agrarian world, that meant you don't plant, you don't prune for an entire year. And it's a little bit different in our modern setting, right? For most of us, in a non-agrarian context, it's doubtful that our employers will give us a full Sabbath year, right? Hey, boss, next year, seventh year, I'm taking the whole year off with pay. You're good with that, right? So in a modern and largely non-agrarian society, this context, the sabbatical is going to look different in practice. But listen, the Father's heart behind the command must remain the same for us. After sustained seasons of hard work, we need to take an extended season of complete rest. Right? The principle endures even if the form changes. After extended seasons of hard work, take an extended season of complete rest. Life goes well when we do that because it's good. Life goes well when I take an extended pause every seventh year. Oh, let's read that. That's on the screen. So the take home, let's read it together and out loud. I didn't say that. Life goes well when I take an extended pause every seventh year. All right, so now I want to bring this home to Lighthouse. So a healthy biblical expression, or expectation, I'd say, for the two of you, for Clint and Rose, during their upcoming sabbatical, is not that they return having done something productive. That's the Father's expectation. No, you don't have to do something productive. You don't have to take a class. You don't have to write a book. All right? You just need to return having completely rested from your labors, and whatever that looks like for you. Now, I don't know if Eli Lilly has a different expectation on you, but anyway, church, our expectation is to be on them. Take a complete extended pause. And if we pause, or if we stop now to answer the question, so why is sabbatical so important to you, Lighthouse Vineyard? All right, why is the concept, the practice, the command of sabbatical important? And my answer is, well, besides the fact that it's in the book, right, that's important enough, right? Besides the fact that it's in the book, all right, you think about that. But besides the fact that it's in the book, that's important. I would say it's especially important because of an all too familiar refrain to us. There's an article, which I think might be on the screen, which quotes author and pastor Pete Wilson as he spoke from the stage to the church that he started on his very last Sunday in ministry. And this is what he said: I'm tired. I'm broken. And most of you only experience what I do on Sundays, but the reality is, as a leader and the pastor of a church, what happens in between those Sundays is just as important, and it requires a lot of leadership, and it requires a lot of energy. And leaders in any realm of life who lead on empty don't lead well. And for some time now, I've been leading on empty. And so I believe that the best thing for me to do is step aside. And so I'm officially resigning. right? Another pastor in a very, very, very long line of pastors who have bit the dust, who have gone down in meteoric flames or have simply disappeared in a silent smolder. All because they were pushing too hard constantly and leading on empty because they weren't getting Sabbath. That's why sabbatical is important at Lighthouse Vineyard. And that's why I applaud you. That's why I applaud Clinton Rose and your board's decision to practice sabbatical. Besides the fact that it's in the book. I got to keep throwing that jab in. And for non-pastors, everybody here, I'd like to suggest that sabbatical rhythm is also the Father's rhythm for you vocationally, to keep you from flaming out. Sabbatical is a good thing. Try to take an every seventh year extended leave. Now, so here's the problem that you have in trying to make this happen. The board here is not your boss, probably. Right? So you're going to have to work that out with him or her. And I don't know what that looks like, but take an extended pause, rhythmically. All right, so we're going to just wrap this up. Does worship team come up afterwards? I'm sorry? Oh, just, okay. All right. Worship team, don't come forward. All right, so the Father has ordained simply that we exercise a sacred rhythm of strengthening ourselves through rest of all things. We strengthen through rest. Life goes well when I pause completely. Let's say that together. Life goes well when I pause completely. Next line. In imitation of the Father's example. Next line. As an expression of trust. Next line. To experience the Father's smile. And then lastly. And life goes well when I exercise a rhythm of complete extended rest